Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We have now completed week 6, that is, of the Darts Premier League. You will notice that I am here on my own this evening, flying solo again. The team are all tied up with all sorts of different bits and pieces. It's a busy time of year for us over at Online Darts. So you have only got me this evening. I think that we're up and running. I am not a technical expert, as you all know. I've done my best to get things up and running, and I think with a bit of luck, we might be there. So if anybody, and tell you what I would appreciate tonight is some activity in the comments, because on my own, I will give you all of my views and some reviews from this evening's action, but very, very keen to see how everybody else has read the night, what you made of another week of Dutch dominance, and what your takes were on tonight's action. We have got our man with the mic, Phil Bars, is in Liverpool, so he will be providing us with some very, very close after the action reaction from the players this evening. So looking forward to hearing what they've got to say. And whilst the headline tonight is, of course, another week of Dutch dominance from Michael van Gerwen, there are some other stories there tonight as well. So we finally got some points on the board and a win for Snakebite Peter Wright. On top of that, we get another week of Chris Dobie playing incredibly well, but not managing to pick up a win. We will go through the matches in the early stages. So I tell you what, we will simply work in order because it makes the digital side for me much, much easier. And in the opening game tonight, I think was a result that, good evening, Rob. We are just starting to pick a few people up. I apologize if some of you ended up on another broadcast and then back onto this one. That is purely down to my lack of technical ability and being here on my own this evening. So in tonight's, getting back to the action, tonight's opening game, I think so. I was on a live lounge on Monday, and I think certainly all of us on the show, I'm pretty sure everybody in the chat room all had this pegged as a Gerwin Price win. And at times, I thought that's what we were going to get. We did say, let's just address the elephant in the room very quickly. One of the strangest sets of darts that we've ever seen Peter Wright throw. Certainly that I have just a very, very unusual set of darts again. And interestingly enough, we didn't see a change from him at all. Very, very unusual that he didn't chop and change the darts, even when they weren't going particularly well for him tonight. However, those chubby little stubby interesting flights did at times look like they were going exactly where he wanted to put them, but in other times I'm not sure that was all going to plan for Peter. However, came out well, I think, in this match. It was always going to be a tough one for Peter. I think what was very strange for me is it's not very often that we hear Peter Wright booed anywhere. There are those that are critical of the way that he plays the game. It's very, very rare that we see Peter Wright booed. It's even rarer that we see Gerwin Price cheered. So that was a bit of a strange one from the fans over in Liverpool today. But yes, not a straight barrel in sight for Peter Wright tonight. And he got off to an absolute flyer and found himself 5-2 ahead. And at that point, I thought, like, these darts are working. I think Peter Wright throwing anything other than a straight barrel is bonkers, because he's amazing with a straight barrel. But they just seemed to work really early, and he picked the brakes up, and he was 5-2 ahead. And then he missed 3 match darts. And then he got to 5-3 ahead, and he missed 3 more match darts. And I'm sure you, like myself and everybody else, and I think even Peter Wright, just started to think, oh, this isn't quite going to plan. This is all going a little bit strange. And then lo and behold, we get back to a noble leg. We get 5-5, and Gerwyn Price, without really, if we're honest, playing particularly well. Gerwyn Price's average tonight 89, so far from his best dart, but clawed his way into a deciding leg. Missed a dart at the bull for the match. Incredibly tense stuff. Peter Wright finally picking up his first win of this year's Premier League season on his 9th match dart. So moving his way into the semi-finals, Peter Wright dispatching of Gerwyn Price. And then into the second game for Michael van Gerwen and Johnny Clayton. Now, Johnny Clayton remains the only man who's ever beaten Michael van Gerwen in Liverpool. Liverpool always, as we see in the rest of the night, always a bit of a stronghold for Michael van Gerwen. He's drawn there twice, and every other game he's played there, he has been victorious. Other than that one occasion against Johnny Clayton. Now, Johnny Clayton did bits, and he did bits well in stages, but if we're completely honest, this was just a Michael van Gerwen who looked really, really early in the game like he was winning the night tonight. He came out absolutely flying. Again, not incredible averages from van Gerwen, but just shaving under 97. But Johnny not quite able to reach that height. Johnny's doubling was very good. Johnny Clayton 50% on his doubles, however, only got 4 goals at them. And that's where just the scoring of Michael van Gerwen was just too much. More 180s, more 140s. He just was the better player. Nothing too exciting in that game. It was a relatively straightforward victory for Michael van Gerwen. So we'll move on to what, for me, here up in a very cold northeast of England, was another frustrating Premier League game for the fans of Chris Dobey in this campaign, because, I mean, let's be honest, first and foremost, Nathan Aspinall came out looking just amazing, and it's a wonderful thing to see Nathan Aspinall, flying out, playing amazing darts. He's got the new darts that he's throwing that look like they're throwing really, really well. Lots of movement, I seem to think, in Nathan tonight. Lots of movement on the hockey. Even in his throw, he didn't, to me, look as set as he often does when he's throwing, but came out absolutely flying. And, as a Dobey fan, I was a little bit worried that things were just going to get over and done with very quickly. Aspinall hitting the 112 and the 143 to break. At 4-0 down, Aspinall was 4 out of 4 on the doubles, and Dobey hadn't thrown a single dart at double. So it did look like it was going to be a complete demolition job. But then Dobey managed to find his 180s, found his scoring, lifted his average, and made that game really competitive. And we were very, very close to getting a deciding leg. And that game looked like it was going to go all the way. Dobey couldn't quite find the combination finishing. No combination finish at all in that match from Dobey. Across those 4 legs, they were all just individual darts that he took out. But I noticed somebody did mention in the comments a moment or two ago that there weren't any ton plus averages tonight. There was, however, a ton plus average from Chris Dobey, who managed once again he was just he was 0.2 away from averaging 102. Now, Chris Dobey averaging 102 with 50% on his doubles managed to not win that game. And I think now is the point where it's going to have to become a little bit concerning, because Chris is playing very well every week. He's scoring really well. He's averaging well. His doubling's really good, but he's just being edged out every time. Yes, he had to come from behind today, probably left himself a little bit too much to do, but it is now starting to get a bit of a concern, especially with Peter Wright picking up a win. Those at the bottom, Peter Wright, Chris Dobie, may be benefiting from these 3 wins of Michael van Gerwen's on the bounce, because it upsets the league a little bit, and that everybody else is lingering behind a little bit, and it just keeps that number 4 slot open a little bit. But yeah, a real shame for Dobie to not pick a win up again, playing so well. However, we mustn't detract away from the fact that Nathan Aspinall played a superb game of darts, himself averaging just shy of 100. But what we have to mention and recognise is 100% on his doubles. Nathan Aspinall had 6 legs to win today, and he won those 6 legs with 6 darts at double. He was absolutely faultless. And it's very rare that it's very, very rare that happens, where somebody wins a game at this level as well, in an arena with all sorts going on in the crowd, and just manages to find that every single time, that composure. And yes, he did move quite a bit on the hockey and reset himself, probably, I think, more so tonight than any time in recent weeks, Aspinall. But it was exactly as you say, Mr. David. It was a great battle, and Nathan Aspinall did a very good job of coming out on top. And into the final of tonight's quarterfinals, and this was another one, and I feel a little bit silly saying this out loud, that took me by surprise. And I'll put my hands up. The Live Lounge on Monday, I called this a Dimitri van den Bergh win, because Dimmy's just looked so comfortable and on the hockey of late, and looked really well. And Michael Smith, we know he's been carrying a bit of an injury. I don't think physically he's at his best. But we mustn't forget, he is the world number 1. He is the world champion, and he is still Michael Smith at the end of the day. Again, being really honest, the game wasn't anything too fantastic. It's not very often we will see Michael Smith win convincingly with a 6-3 win and didn't throw a 180. Very, very rare that happens. And you can really see that in the average from Michael Smith, averaging 92.5, which again, good solid average, but not what we've come to expect from the world number 1. Dimitri van den Bergh, a little bit out with a whimper. When he pulled it back to 4-3, it looked like they just could be a bit of potential in that, but the breaks just came too early, I think, for Dimitri. Michael going 3-0 up and 2 breaks a throw. It was always going to be an uphill battle for Dimi van den Bergh. And the world number 1 and the world champion got the job done. And from that, so I think 3 of my picks didn't make it past the first round today. So for me personally, a bit of an interesting one, whilst albeit arguably bookies' favourites going through. But then, of course, we did get to see Peter Wright on the back of a victory. Again, with these, let's be honest, strange set of darts. A sort of Phil Taylor-like chubby dart that he was throwing. And for me, they sat really quite unusual in the bed. And Dan Dawson made a comment on commentary about some of the miscounting and Peter, I think 3 times leaving himself a bogey number where he couldn't finish, and perhaps just focusing too much on the lie of that dart. But he obviously sees something in them. I thought that they lied in a very strange way for scoring, that he couldn't seem to stack them in the 180. He was pulling a lot into the treble 5 when he was trying to find some space. I found it was a bit of a tough watch. It looked like he was having to really force it and really labour it. And in that second game that he had tonight against Michael van Gerwen, it just didn't click at all for Peter. And Michael van Gerwen just stayed very consistent, which is what he's done certainly for the last 3 weeks, but really throughout the whole of the Premier League campaign. The level of darts at which he's thrown have been very consistent, averaging just shy of 95, 3 180s, 33.3 on his doubles. Just sort of a very steady, consistent performance. Now, the one leg that Peter Wright picked up was the 130, and that, you know, he was 2-0 down, so he lost that early break, and you know, pulling that leg back, certainly with that big 130 finish, you got a bit excited. You thought, we've got a game on our hands here. After that, Peter had 8 more darts at a double and didn't hit any. His doubling was 11%. Really let himself down on the doubles there, but didn't get probably as many darts as he should because his scoring wasn't quite there, and it just really fell apart. And he seemed to really fight his way through against Gerwyn Price, and he just couldn't live tonight, if we're honest, with Michael van Gerwen, who just stuck to that consistent level. A similar story, I think, with our other semi-final tonight, where we had a player in Nathan Aspinall who's come through a very tough battle of a game against Chris Dobie. Could have gone either way. Nathan's fought his way through that, and then really not being able to carry that through into the next game. And really, whilst Michael played well, we did start to see the 180s from Smith. So that first game, we didn't see any 180s at all. In this game, we found Michael threw 5. So we've definitely seen a higher level from Michael Smith. We've seen him up his double percentage, but really the doubles from Nathan Aspinall in this match, 2 from 18. Nathan Aspinall had more darts at a double at Michael Smith than Michael Smith and got smashed up 6-2. The double finishing really let Nathan Aspinall down in this match. The double or lack of finishing on doubles has certainly contributed to an average of 75.5, which is a million miles away from where Nathan would expect to be in this match. But no 180s, only 3 140s in 8 legs of darts. Just is a mile away from what we're used to seeing from Nathan Aspinall, which is unusual considering the battle that he'd gone through with Dobie to get there. But the both semi-finals are very one-sided affair this evening. I'm just having a quick look around to see if we've got... Now, I know that Phil was in the press conference when I spoke to him just before coming on, so I'm not sure where we are currently at in terms of videos and whether we've got some videos and what we've got to show. So for the time being, we will just continue to have a little bit of a plod through the rest of the night's action, which is now only one match, because then we had our rematch of this year's Darts World Championship final in Michael van Gerwen against Michael Smith. And we did see, once again, even more 180s and a higher average from Michael Smith. But the Dutchman just managed to keep that consistency of a ton average, 10.2. So we did get another ton plus average in the night, 2 ton plus averages over the course of this evening. But just keeping that scoring going, and again, just being the more clinical man on the doubles. Michael Smith only managing 30% on his doubles, 4 out of 13. Michael van Gerwen, 50%, 6 out of 12. So just scoring very similar, but just that extra bit of clinical double shooting from Michael van Gerwen has managed to get the job done and get him over the line. And I'm looking for, as I'm live, I can't flick too far, but I'm looking for an updated league table. But Michael van Gerwen has now put himself in a position where he is got to be, well, he won't be mathematical, but in reality, there is absolutely no way that he's not going through to the knockouts. He is absolutely going to be in the top 4. And the other 7 are playing for 3 places. You've got to assume. If anybody doesn't agree with that, please put it in the comments and then reflect on the fact that you might well be mad, because Michael van Gerwen is just absolutely bossing this format. We have endless debates about who doesn't, whether we do or don't like the format. And I'm tempted to not get drawn into one of those conversations today. But the format definitely does suit Michael van Gerwen at the moment, because he just seems to manage to find a consistent level throughout the evening. And that's key. We saw that from Nathan Aspinall tonight, where he played incredibly well, got himself through a tough game, and then dropped. Same with Peter Wright, who got himself through that game somehow, whether darts or no darts, wherever he was throwing, but then completely dipped. And Michael van Gerwen just seems to be able to find a level at the beginning of the night and then hold it through 3 games. And in this format, that will win you night. You don't particularly have to do anything, absolutely stunning. We did get close to a couple of interesting. We had 2 lots of 6 perfect darts tonight, so there was a little bit of excitement in there as to whether or not we would see a 9, but we wait another week for a 9 in the Premier League, and we won't see one, or we haven't seen one in Liverpool. So let's have a quick look into the chat room. Thoughts on the new World Cup? Oh, I won't go into this too much, but amazing. For me, so I said live lounge on Monday, the more doubles, the better. My dream World Cup, my absolute dream World Cup is teams of 4 and they play doubles in different combinations. It'd be like a monster of a World Cup. Very much a pipe dream. I'm not sure it would work, but I just love the idea of a team-based international tournament. I think is amazing. But yeah, thoughts on the new format of the World Cup? For me, definitely an improvement. I like the World Cup. It's loads of fun. It's mega, isn't it? We did get as well, so Mr. David comment, Sky did a really, really good introduction video package extravaganza right at the beginning of the night, all about MVG and dominance in the Premier League over the years and going for the record and things like that. So clearly they knew something that we didn't early in the day, and they definitely had a read on what was going to happen. Whilst we, as I say, I'm still in the absence of interview videos, so don't forget all of the videos, all of the interviews that Phil picks up, our man with the mic in Liverpool tonight, will be on our YouTube page. We will be sharing them through all of our other channels, through Twitter, through Facebook, everywhere else. So you will definitely get to see all of those. However, we will go straight on while we've got some activity in the chat room, and we will have a quick look at next Thursday night's Premier League matches and some what I think are some very interesting combinations here. Certainly looking at how things went tonight and how things ended up. So please weigh in the chat room as we go through each match. I will give you my pick. I'll tell you what I think. Please also tell me what you think in the chat room and let me know your picks. So the opening game, we saw interesting bits from both of them this evening, but Dimitri van den Berg against Nathan Aspinall. I think that's a really, really interesting game, because I think they are both probably playing, so whilst they had a mixed bag this evening, definitely a mixed bag this evening, they're both playing some of their best stuff at the minute in the Premier League, and this Premier League format definitely seems to be working for them both. I personally am inclined to go with Nathan Aspinall. I think it's probably going to be another tight one, because that's how Nathan tends to do it. But I am inclined to go Nathan Aspinall 6-5. I'll go that close. I think it's going to be really, really close. I do think Dimmy looks really comfortable on that Premier League stage. Looks happy and comfortable at the Oki at the moment. So yeah, I definitely. But I just think Nathan will have the edge. He's played some really, really good stuff of late. After that, we go to again another just after this moment in time, really interesting all Welsh quarter-final between Johnny Clayton and Gerwyn Price. And at the minute, Johnny's not having the best of runs in the Premier League. You know, he has picked up a couple of wins, but that really is it. He hasn't done very much. And even when he's won, he hasn't shown some of the form that we have come to expect from the Ferret in the Premier League. So for me, it's a relatively straightforward pick, and I think it's a 6-3 Gezi Price win. I think Price goes through relatively comfortably over Clayton, and I do think that does start to separate even further that patch or that band of Wright, Dobie, and Clayton in the league table if one of them doesn't break out and win a night or another night very quickly. The third game, and again, I think this is going to be a smash up, but Michael Van Gerwen against Peter Wright. And I suppose the biggest question, rather than what's going to happen here, is what on earth will Peter Wright be throwing? He might be throwing some soft tip darts. He could be throwing anything next week. They certainly took me by surprise this evening. I think they took him by surprise the direction they went sometimes. So, but I think that his confidence is way off in the Premier League environment. He doesn't know what darts he wants to throw. I think it is comfortable. Michael Van Gerwen 6-2 win. Jamie, that is, my friend, a bold prediction from Jamie Drummer, who's picked Peter Wright 6-2. I mean, stranger things have happened, but I would be very surprised if the man that seems to be struggling the most at the moment is going to put out Michael Van Gerwen after he's won 3 in a row. It could happen. It certainly could happen. We have seen stranger things happen in darts, but my instinct is that I'm very much just going to go with a Michael Van Gerwen 6-2 win. And the final game for next week's quarterfinals is the current world champion and world number one, Michael Smith, against a relentlessly well-performing Chris Dobie, who cannot seem to find a win for love nor money. So we've got Michael Smith and Chris Dobie. And for me, it's very difficult because of the level at which Dobie's been playing. Now, tonight he played really, really well. And on any other night, that's a performance that wins a match. But Nathan Aspinall just didn't miss a double at all, 6 out of 6. I do think certainly after Smith making the final today, he looks very comfortable. He doesn't look like an injury's getting the better of him. So I think it is a Michael Smith 6-4, but I do think we'll see another ton plus average from Dobie. I think he will play well again. I think he will continue to play well. Interesting, actually, that we've actually got, for the first time tonight, I've actually been outvoted in the chat. And everybody else is going for Dobie, which is very, very interesting. Certainly because I am famous for picking Dobie all the time, and normally it's me picking Dobie against everybody else. All right, so it does look like our man with the mic, Phil Bowles, has managed to get some reaction from tonight's winner. So we will go first to finish what we are talking about, which is next week. We're going to talk about night 7, and we've done the quarter finals. So the final thing I will just ask of you all in the chat room is to pick a final and a winner. So I will give you mine, and I don't even think it's particularly bold, but I think the final next week is Michael Van Gerwen against Nathan Aspinall, and I think Michael Van Gerwen wins 6-4. I think he's going 4 on the bounce. I just don't think anyone's going to beat him at the minute in that format. I mean, it might. I'd happy to be proved wrong, but certainly with the fixtures that we've got next week, the fact that we can't see a Van Gerwen against Smith final, that's going to happen in a semi-final if it happens. I think it's MVG against Aspinall in the final, and I just think the Dutchman gets it done again. Mr. David is going for Gerwin Price. Matthew going for the Asp. If he can find the doubles that he found in that game against Chris Dobie, then we will definitely be seeing a victory. Absolutely. Right. Let's have a quick look. Because we do now have, let me just find the video clip that we have of Michael Van Gerwen, and we will see what the Dutchman's reaction was to his victory this evening.
2 foot.
Dan, you're there.
Of course I'm there. Don't ask me stupid questions. Come on.
We know last year when you were guaranteed a playoff place, you switched off and you said it was hard to get motivated. Is that going to be a factor this year? Because
No.
there's no winner's bonus for winning the table.
I feel sick a bit. I stay home. No, of course you wanna put a record and points. You know what I mean? I love to play in front of big crowds, and that's what you have in the Premier Leagues. And I won 3 now. We only. It was week 6?
Yeah.
Exactly. So still like 11, 12 to go, so up to the next one.
Losing, but in the long run, will that be a good...
Not like losing is a bad word, I hate losing.
Hate losing, but will that do you good in the long run, because you don't like to feel that pain again?
Really, but it's a marathon, everyone knows that, and you need to keep your focus going, and yeah, it's one of them things happen. It's going to happen a lot more to me, so you need to remain focused. That's, I think, key.
Well, it certainly seems that Michael Van Gerwen agrees with me and most of you that he is, without a doubt, already an absolute shoo-in for the playoffs at the O2 Arena, and the other 7 players are playing for 3 spots. Very difficult to say anything other than that at this stage. We have had a couple of other predictions, and I tell you what, Jeff, if you're right and we get a Dobie Aspinall final, I will be a very, very happy man next week. I'll be very entertained. And Jamie is predicting Price beats Wright. He really fancies Peter Wright next week, does Jamie? Hey, let's see what he throws. Right, folks, I appreciate we've had a little bit of a shorter show than normal, but this has tested both my darting knowledge and technical ability, more so my technical ability than anything else. But we have caught up on tonight's action. We've talked about what's going to happen next week, and we have heard from tonight's winner, Michael Van Gerwen. So I will bid you all a good night. Don't forget, all of the rest of the interviews that have been picked up by Phil Bars, the man with the mic, will be put onto all of our platforms. So you will see them on YouTube, you'll see them on Facebook, you will see them on Twitter, you'll see them everywhere we can get them stuck. And we will see you, village notices. So Players Championship events. So where we will be streaming Saturday and Sunday this weekend. So don't miss out on the coverage of every game that takes place at the Players Championship event Saturday and Sunday. And then back as we are every week at 8 o'clock on Monday for the live lounge. You will get Gob, Phil and Boise to talk about the week in darts. I have been Dan Simpson, joining you from the very, very cold northeast of England. Have a fantastic weekend, and I will see you all very shortly. Good night.